The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen.
I hope you're enjoying.
Have you recovered from the weekend, Ajay?
Well, it depends. There was two parts to the weekend. One was an incredible nightmare, and the other was actually relaxing and nice. And then I realized we had to do a show today and explained, and it is our job. We are blessed to have jobs, but it's our unfortunate job to explain to all of this wonderful listener base, I don't know how many there are, what in the hell happened Saturday night in one of the worst the worst collapse in Aggie men's basketball history. Worst. People talk about the Pacific game. You remember this game, February 12th, 2005. Aggies are up 8 with 38 seconds remaining. And then Pacific goes on an 11-2 run, and they win at 64-63 on a jumper on the right wing. And they beat Utah State and stun the Spectrum, and they go to 15-0 on the season. This trumps that by an incredibly large, wide margin in so many ways. And you and I have the due responsibility to explain to our listeners what we saw from our glasses and our eyes, and to try to break this down and relive a horrid nightmare for the Valley. And that sounds dramatic, but it really is that bad of a loss, because A, it takes you out of any at-large bid. Whatever hopes and dreams and chances you had for an at-large bid, let me get this very clear for each and every one of you. There is no chance anymore. It is gone. It is crushed. It is ashes. It is no longer existing. Forget it. If you want to go to the NCAA tournament, you got to win 3 in a row in March in Vegas. And that includes you're probably going to have to beat San Diego State at some point. And right now, it's looking like you might have to beat him in the first round. Or, after that bye game or whatever the heck it is.
I agree. Sadly, I think that it all comes now. The rest of the season only comes down to 3 days in March. For Utah State basketball, they've lost 4 out of their last 5 games. And while the games and the wins over Florida and LSU look nice, because both those teams are playing good basketball right now, Utah State is not. There are big question marks about this team. Saturday night illustrated a few things that we've been saying for a little while here. That Sam Merrill may be the conference player of the year, but Neemias Queta means more to the Utah State Aggie basketball team. When he fouled out, that's when Boise State started to make their run. Shortly after that, Utah State couldn't stop him. Utah State needed just one thing to go their way in that last 5 minutes. Just one more made free throw. Just one less turnover. Just one additional rebound. Just one made field goal. Their points were all at the free throw line. They couldn't get the ball in the bucket. Just one more defensive stop. Pick any one of those. They didn't need that cumulative. You pick any one of those and they still win the game. Baffling, Ajay. Baffling. I could not believe what I was watching.
Well, that's the thing is Eric, the Aggies were up 18 with 4 minutes and change to spare. They were up 16 with about 3 minutes and change to spare. And then it all went to complete hell. Like all of a sudden, Brock Miller on a 2-on-1 loses the basketball because he tries a fake do-si-do pass and it bounces off his leg, goes the other way, gets to be a 2-point play, comes back on the other side. Brock misses a wide open 3. Dennis knocks down a 3 on the other side. All of a sudden, this thing is down to 6. Then Brito, who has struggled mightily and looked incredibly rattled, throws a baseline bounce pass that bounces out of bounds before it even gets to the guy. That's a turnover. And then we all look at that 5-minute, or I mean that 5-point barrage where they got where Dennis got the 3, and then Brito goes to take it out and doesn't even take the opportunity to scan the court. Rushes his pass to Bean, where there's a Boise guy sitting practically right in front of him, makes a steal, lays it in, and Bean's the only one to contest it. Nobody fouls him to challenge him at the rim. You make him go to the line to shoot 2 free throws. You force him to go to the line to hit 2 free throws to tie that game. If he makes him, good on him. If he doesn't, get a rebound and get out of there. Bean's the only one to challenge that bucket. I could almost just say, I mean, it was a major collapse, but my question to you, Eric, who do you blame more? The players for not executing, or for the coach not putting in the right substitutions, or calling timeouts, or trying to stop the momentum?
That's a great question. And I don't know that you can point at anyone specific, because I think it's equal.
435-339-0321 if you want to text in and share your thoughts on this. This conversation is going to go on for a while. Craig Smith Prester at 4:30. I'll head over there, grab the audio, bring it back to Eric, who will play it for you. Again, 435-339-0321 if you want to text in, or 435-752-1069 if you want to call in and share your thoughts on an absolute collapse of a loss. Now the Aggies, by the way, we got to look forward to, because we don't have a lot of time to dwell on it, Eric. We got to play Air Force tomorrow, who wiped us on the floor at Clune Arena just 2 weeks ago by 19. And they got to go play Air Force now and then get ready for Colorado State on Saturday night. There's not a lot of time to dwell on this, but you got to think that these kids are, I mean, at least just rattled still, at least a little bit from this loss.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was when so many different ways to take this. I think when Boise State was making their run, it still kind of looked like Utah State, they weren't panicking. It looked like they felt like just the image was the perception for me was that from an Aggie perspective, we've got this nice lead. We've got a comfortable lead. We just got to make a few plays. We'll get this done. We'll take care of business. Go to the free throw line, make our free throws. We'll be okay. But everything that could go wrong did go wrong for USU. Everything that had to go right did go right for Boise. We talked about this before the other night, Ajay, going into this game. Games in Boise between Utah State and Boise State are almost always wacky. There's always some crazy way that the game ends. 4 minutes ago, it looked like, okay, the streak is going to be broken. This is going to be a traditional blowout win. Utah State in control. Get it done. But I don't know, Ajay. Maybe I think there should be some blame on coaches for not maybe making some changes to find the right combination of guys, not having a better defensive presence to get one additional stop, for making a game plan offensively, adjustments to ensure you get a bucket. They didn't score any field goals, Ajay, in the last couple of minutes of the game.
From 5-0, here's the thing. From like the 6-minute mark to the end of the game, Boise State didn't miss a field goal. From 5:03 to the end, from 6:03 to about halfway through overtime, Boise State didn't miss a field goal. From 5:03 to about halfway through overtime, Utah State didn't make a field goal. There are issues all over the place on this Utah State team, defensively and offensively. Bad decisions offensively resulting in turnovers or bad missed shots, by the way. And then defensively, look, the closeout on Dennis from Porter I thought was there. You don't want to foul him shooting a three-pointer. But when someone gets a steal and you have to challenge him at the rim, and it's the only guy that's actually behind the guy shooting the layup, that's just horrible. It's not good. I mean, this is an absolute debacle of all sorts when you blow an 18-point lead, firmly in control, and then you let down your guard like that. I was just stunned.
What's also stunning, Boise State essentially scores 42 points in the last 9-10 minutes of the game, when you include overtime.
Yep.
Utah State was up 64 to 48 at, Utah State was up 64 to 46 with 5.5 to go. Sam Merrill, that was the last made field goal for Utah State.
Gosh.
In regulation.
6:46, is that what you just told me?
5:35.
5:35.
It was 64 to 46. Boise State ends up winning the game 88 to 83. Utah State gave up 42 points.
Yeah. I'm going to head over to the presser. You'll get audio. Eric will have that audio. I'm going to email him as soon as I possibly can. As soon as we're done, you'll hear from Coach Smith. You might even hear from a player as they recap the Boise loss. They will be asked to recap the Boise loss. We will get that out of them. And then we'll also get a quick preview on Air Force. Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, you can get pregame here, of course, on our sister station on 610 KV. And Eric will be back.
All right.
I can't wait for this. People want answers. I love what you told me because I was like, hey, I want to go to the presser. What do you think? And you said something really poignant. You said this valley and this community and the Aggie fans want answers. That's what you told me. And I was like, great, let's do it then. So we're going to try and go get answers out of Craig Smith to see what happened. And I'll send you that audio and Eric will play that immediately. You'll hear this press conference on 106 on the Fan. Nowhere else will it have it except for us. On 106 on the Fan, 1390 AM. So I'll get that press conference starts about 4:30. I'll get that to him ASAP. So,
all right, get out of here. He's going to leave right now. Shut the door. So yeah, we're all baffled. We all want to hear what Craig Smith has to say. How do you explain this? I've never witnessed anything like that before in my life. I've never seen a team. I've seen comebacks before. I've seen teams make valiant efforts before. Heck, we've seen Utah State do that this season with the comeback against LSU. But that was over a longer period of time that they fought back. They made their adjustments at halftime and started chipping away. As Coach Smith would say, they just kept chopping wood. NBA, next best action. And over time, they started to get things going their way, and they took momentum and held on and kept it, and were able to win that game. This was in reverse and on steroids. Never before have I seen anything like this before. All they needed was one stop, one more made free throw, one less turnover, one defensive stop. But this has been an issue we've talked about quite a bit, is bench play. You've got Keta goes out there and plays pretty well. I mean, 12 points, 6 boards, an assist, and a block, but he does foul out. And there's not a lot more that comes off the bench that really contributes a heck of a whole lot. I mean, there were guys that were doing things in different ways, but you look at 9 points out of your bench. You had 7 turnovers from your bench. There needs to be more consistency coming off the bench. And Sean Bairstow's a guy that looks like, he's had a couple of games coming off the bench where he's looked pretty good. He only played in 4 minutes. Had 1 rebound and a turnover himself. But Diogo Brito, he's kind of the Swiss Army knife for Utah State. He does a lot of things. I'm a big Brito fan, but gosh, they need more offensively out of him. And I'm not just to pick on him, but there's a lot of other guys that just haven't been performing like we would expect them to be at this level. It's this team, but all these guys that are back in this system. It's not something new. It's not trying to adjust to a new system, a new coach. The core of this team is the same. But it's hard. I mean, what do you do? What do you do? At some point, I think the coaches are like, look, this is who we are. This is what we have. At what point do you say, all right, it's time to plan for the future? And we're going to develop our younger guys more. I mean, it doesn't help when your quote-unquote star three-point shooter goes 0 for 3 and only gives you 4 points. Brock Miller. and you don't get a lot of help off your bench. I mean, Anderson played some minutes. A lot more of those minutes were in the overtime. But, Trevin Dorius didn't play much. We didn't see Kuba at all. So, hard to figure out what happened. I can't tell you how many different times people have approached me and said, what happened? Why did that happen? We're all searching for answers. How is it that Utah State lets a freshman come off the bench that nobody really knows about and does some crazy things? They held their stars in check for portions of the game, but then they had some other guys that weren't expecting play very well. That has been the life of Utah State in the Mountain West this year. They don't seem to be the same team since the start of the year. They've lost 4 of their last 5. 2 of those were blowouts. They didn't look like they or even belonged to be on the same court. And what happened on Saturday felt like a blowout. I mean, you have the lead. You have a 5-point lead with 10 seconds to go. You lose the game. Unbelievable. We'll get into more of that a little bit later on. We'll hear the comments from Coach Craig Smith. I don't know if we'll hear from players or not, but we know this team is searching for answers too, as they should be. But there's something very different about this Utah State team, and we haven't been able to put our finger on it this year compared to last. Is it the Keta factor? Having him on the court or not on the court? Yes, that certainly makes a difference, but look what they did in the pre-conference, in the preseason. They didn't have Keta then when they played against LSU and when they played against Florida. Yes, they could have used him in the game against St. Mary's and BYU. Maybe those games go a little bit differently. But this just doesn't seem like it's the same team as those teams that won those games. Certainly, I think that the confidence may be a little bit rattled. Their grit maybe a little bit rattled. Not quite the same. But this is a team that in 2 different stretches of the game went ice cold. It started late in the first half with about 2 minutes to go. And Utah goes up 38 to 19. They look like they have a nice cushion. They're playing well. And then they go cold. Don't score again until early in the second half. And then it happened again late in the second half. So being able to get automatic points is something this team has struggled with at times. And you know what? It's great. I mean, Utah State sends out the release today. Oh, Utah State is in the top 10 and all these different categories. Doesn't matter. Winning is what matters. It's great that they're good at the free throw line. It's great that they have this rebounding margin, and it's great that they have these assists. But if they're not winning games, does that really matter? Anyway, love to get your thoughts. What do you think needs to change, if anything, for this Utah State basketball team? They've got Air Force coming into town tomorrow night. It needs to be a quick turnaround. And this is a team that's looking for some redemption there. But love to get your thoughts on what happened on Saturday night up in Boise. Feel free to text in. The phone line, the text number is 435-339-0321. That's 435-339-0321. Your reactions to what happened Saturday night and what, if anything, needs to be changed for Utah State to have any kind of a respectable season from this point going forward. And do you think, is there any chance this team still makes it to the NCAA? 435-339-0321. We'd love to get your thoughts on that. A lot of other things to get through tonight. We also had a pretty interesting weekend in the championship football games in the AFC and the NFC. Who won? Who's moving on to the Super Bowl? Who do you like now based off of who we know the matchup is going to look like? Region 11 basketball standings updated from the games that happened over this past week. We'll look at those. Utah Jazz, they're in action tonight, taking on the Indiana Pacers. Bojan Bogdanovic, his former team, he's playing well right now. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder. And Mike Conley back in the mix for the Jazz as well. Perfect timing? Or will it start to disrupt some things that the Jazz have been doing well? So we'll look at those things. We'll update you on what happened in our Pick 6 and some Utah State football players in action over this past weekend. And a few more will be in action this coming weekend. So we'll discuss all of that on who's playing where and how you can follow along. All that's coming up next right here on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen. Though Ajay is on his way to Utah State, Coach Craig Smith will be meeting with the media this afternoon to talk about Air Force and to try to make sense of what happened in Boise over the weekend. We'll hear from him a little bit later on in the show. We'll have that full audio coming up a little bit later on, most likely in the 5 o'clock hour, so stay tuned for that coming up. Still trying to make sense of what happened. But it was an interesting weekend for football. We had two championship games on Sunday, the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship game. And were you surprised? I mean, the teams that won were the teams that we predicted would win when we were doing our own predictions on Friday. We predicted it would be 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. But it kind of went how we thought it would, to be honest. I mean, the Titans tried to make it interesting, but give a lot of credit to that Kansas City team and the adjustments they made at halftime. And they tried to chew up clock control, but Kansas City can score so quickly and have so many dynamic weapons. They didn't need the ball a lot of times, but you look at this the game and how it unfolded. Tennessee jumps out early, and they have this 10-0 lead, and then Kansas City just proceeds to keep pouring it on, and one right after the other. Tennessee did score another touchdown early in the second quarter, but they're up 17-7, and it looks like this is going to be Tennessee's way. And here's another example of how Tennessee plays Kansas City tough, and they just have their number. But Tyreek Hill has a big time play. Mahomes tucks the ball and runs it in near the end of before the half. Then they come out, and neither team really does much in the third quarter. But then Kansas City gets going again with a couple more touchdowns in the fourth quarter to really put it out of reach. And Tennessee tries to come back, but it's just too much and not enough time to do it. They're just not built to come back quite that same way. But, that Kansas City team, a lot of different weapons, a lot of different ways they can do it. And, of course, a lot of praise coming after the game and in the days since for their head coach, Andy Reid, and what he does to prepare the team, just how this is a guy he's been in the playoffs a lot, but he's only had one trip to the Super Bowl, and that was when he was the Philadelphia Eagles, and that one didn't go very well. They just didn't seem to be nearly as prepared to be there, and just didn't seem to have everything dialed in. This will be interesting to see how he looks in 2 weeks. But Patrick Mahomes, after the game on Sunday, really heaping a lot of praise on his head coach.
Coach Reid puts us in situations where you have to not be in the exact opportune or that advantage to your way. It's an advantage defense, and he wants you to go out there and succeed. And so he let us know before the game if we got into certain yard lines that we were going to go for it if we get to the 4th and shorts and stuff like that. And so whenever, I think you could see the process of it, we got out there. The first play I didn't like, so we went there, called a timeout, went in, changed the play, and got into a play that we liked.
Boy, Mahomes himself was fantastic. I mean, you got to remember, this kid's only early 20s, so he's going to have a long, successful career. It looks like if he doesn't get injured. You always worry about a quarterback who gets out like he does at times, that he could get rolled up on or smashed pretty hard, and it changes his whole trajectory. But he had that scramble that he had for the touchdown, running off to the left side, getting pursued, pauses for just a second and looks off like he might throw it before he hits the line of scrimmage, and that freezes the Tennessee linebacker, and that allows him to get enough of a break to get the edge, to get past him down the sideline and then into the end zone. And that touchdown really there, I felt, made the big difference for Kansas City. All the momentum going into the locker room. They now have the lead after being down, and everything seemed to be swinging more for Kansas City after that play, a 27-yard scramble for Patrick Mahomes. But this is a team that, kind of like the Aggies of a few years ago, where they don't need a lot of time. It doesn't really matter where they are on the field. They have the potential to make big plays and score quickly if they want to. Now, that's not to say that they can't also slow it down and be more ball control and conservative. That was early in the fourth quarter what they did. Actually, it started in the third and it carried over into the fourth. They had that long scoring drive, 73 yards, chewed up over 7 minutes of clock. So it's a team that definitely has that ability to go either way if they want to, if they need to. And again, after the game, it was this time Travis Kelce, the dynamic tight end for the Chiefs, heaping a lot of praise on his head coach Andy Reid.
I love Coach Reid, man. He's definitely a part of the motivation. You know, we're sick of hearing what the media says about him, how he can't get the big one done. And, you know what? We knocked one off the list, got the Lamar Hunt Trophy back here in Kansas City for the Hunt family, and you know what? We still got one more goal to knock off the list.
Andy Reid is one of only 8 coaches in NFL history with 200 wins. He's 14-14 in the playoffs. He's had his teams with Kansas City a lot of close games that they've been in. They just haven't been able to get over the hump. They had the overtime game a year ago. They had a lot of close games where they just weren't able to get things done. They blew a 38-10 third quarter lead to the Colts a few years ago, lost 45-44. There was a game-tying 2-point conversion against the Steelers that was called back for holding. They eventually lose that game, 18-16. They had that 21-3 halftime lead against the Titans in 2017. So this is a team under Andy Reid that's been in a lot of games, close games in the playoffs. But they're playing at a different level right now. Not the best overall record in the NFL this season, but with a healthy Patrick Mahomes and a lot of weapons around him, boy, they're dynamic. And they've got a lot of different things that they can hit you with. Great wide receivers, great running backs. So they didn't particularly run the ball really well. Mahomes had that one scramble for 25, 29 yards. I guess it was 27 yards. But, Damian Williams only had 45 yards on the day. As a team, they had 112. But look what they did to stifle Derrick Henry and the type of playoff run he was having. They totally shut him down. And not totally, but compared to what he was averaging, well below what he was doing in his 2 previous playoff appearances. They held him to 69 yards, and really he didn't have very many touches at all in the second half. That's not necessarily to put the blame on him, as perhaps it is on some of the coaching decisions that happened. But a great game for Kansas City, so now they're going to the playoffs, going to the Super Bowl. And then the other game was in the NFC Championship game between the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. 2 storied programs, a lot of trophies between the two of them in their display cases, and a lot of success. You got dynamic playmakers on both sides of the ball for both teams, but this one was all 49ers. And really, you can say it was not just all 49ers. this was all Raheem Mostert. This was a guy that just could not be denied. Here's a guy that had been played on 7 different teams and wasn't able to really stick anywhere. But he's had a resurrection with what was going on with the 49ers.
True eye, they're going to run it again. Wide stretch run to Mostert, gets the edge left, cuts back inside. Raheem Mostert has 4 rushing touchdowns and the most yards rushing in a playoff game in 49er history. Oh, by the way, touchdown, San Francisco!
Feels great, baby!
What a game for Raheem Mostert as he passes Colin Kaepernick. He now has 196 yards rushing and 4 rushing touchdowns.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible for a guy that had bounced around the league, struggled to stick anywhere. Niners needed some help at the running back position. He comes in and rushes for 220 yards, 4 touchdowns, and Jimmy Garoppolo was a bystander. He didn't do hardly anything and didn't need to. I mean, he did throw for 77 yards on 8 attempts, but my gosh, when you have a guy that's doing that kind of a work, why mess things up? So it's great game planning and execution by Kyle Shanahan. Here's another coach that's been a part of some meltdowns and has had some tough history in the playoffs. He was with the Atlanta Falcons when they had that epic meltdown in the Super Bowl. He was the offensive coordinator that season just a few years ago. So he knows what it's like to be there and be close and just not be able to get it done. But this Niners team looking very, very solid. And Aaron Rodgers, give him some credit for what he was trying to do, but that 49ers defense was harassing him a lot. That great defensive front, pressure defense, made it tough for him. He did throw for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he did have 2 interceptions, sacked 3 times. And it was just a little bit different situation for them. I mean, Devontae Adams still was a big target. He himself has had an incredible postseason, but just not quite enough for the Packers. And this is a team, the 49ers, that like we said, Raheem Mostert did an amazing job doing what he needed to do, carrying the ball and not giving it up. And they're talking a little bit after the game about how he's bounced around in the league a little bit and how exciting it is to have the type of game that he did in a very meaningful game.
Crazy that I've been on 7 different teams. I actually still have, the cut dates, and I look at that every before every game. I look at the cut dates, when I got cut. Been on, like I said, been on 7 different teams, and the journey has been crazy. Not everybody can deal with that type of stress and pain and agony that I went through. But like I said, I kept the faith in not only myself, but whoever gave me the opportunity, and this organization has done a great job with that.
Incredible. Wow. I mean, what a story about perseverance and sticking to it and keep working hard to try to achieve your dreams, making the adjustments you need in your own style to make it work for where you are. Great story by Raheem Mostert. And then afterwards, in addition to that, just as we said, an incredible game for him, 220 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, and all-time record for San Francisco, and going down among the great performances in the playoffs in a conference championship game.
I'm still shocked. I can't believe that Eric Dickerson is the ultimate, running back, and it's a guy that I look up to. Even all the other running backs, even with Frank Gore, to even be mentioned, with somebody like Eric Dickerson, that's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. That's incredible what happened in that matchup on Sunday night, and this is going to be a great matchup, I think. 2 really good teams. You've got a great, experienced coach who's been there before, head coach, and Andy Reid. You've got a young, up-and-coming head coach that's got a lot going for him, but has been to the Super Bowl, and it didn't go right for him last time he went there as an assistant, as a coordinator, trying to exercise his own demons. of Super Bowl past. So this will be a fun Super Bowl, I think. This is going to be an opportunity for some great quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't have to do anything in the conference championship game, but he will likely need to be doing a little bit more in the Super Bowl. I don't know that you can really rely on Raheem Mostert to have the same type of performance as he did in the NFC Championship game, but man, why not? Why not? So this will be fun. I think the early odds here are leaning more towards Kansas City in this one, but I think it's pretty close to see what the odds makers, those that are putting money on the game, who they think is going to win this one. But I think it'll be entertaining. I think you've got two really good coaches. I think you've got dynamic playmakers on both sides of the ball. Frankly, I kind of lean more towards San Francisco in this one because I think they have the more dynamic defense. And I think that's what will make the difference ultimately in a Super Bowl. But either way, I'm excited for this matchup. I think you've got the best teams at this point playing for it. I think it would have been interesting to see Baltimore there, but since they're out, then I think these are the next two best options based on the seasons that they had and the players that they have and all the other additional storylines going into it. So it's going to be on February 2nd, the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, and Super Bowl is going to be played down in Miami. All right, coming up next here in the Full Court Press, some additional thoughts about what happened there over this past weekend. We'll also update you on the Region 11 standings for high school basketball. And there are a couple of games into the region now. What do the standings look like? The latest RPI rankings are out for high school girls and boys basketball. We'll update you on those. Utah Jazz are in action tonight, taking on the Indiana Pacers. We'll get into all that ahead, coming up on the Full Court Press.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
50 years of waiting. 50 years. And the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. 18 seconds, they will count it down here at Arrowhead Stadium. The Chiefs' kingdom, hoping. Their dreams have come true. Hail! Hail to the King of the Chiefs' kingdom forever. Because today, the team that Lamar Hunt founded has just won Lamar Hunt's trophy in the stadium that was Lamar Hunt's dream. Kansas City is the AFC champion. They are headed to Miami for Super Bowl 54. Final score, Kansas City 35, Tennessee 24.
Just give you chills listening to that, doesn't it? Kansas City is opening as the odds-on favorite, but it's very, very close. This line was just set late last night, and of course, there's going to be a lot that's going to change between now and then, and this is, again, just for discussion purposes, nothing more, but you have to also understand how these betting lines work. The Vegas odds makers set a line to encourage people to bet. They want you to place money to think if they think it's going to go one way or the other. However, that being said, it is pretty fascinating to see just how close these guys get it sometimes. But they've got Kansas City. They opened as a 1.5 point favorite, and it's moved just a little bit. It's only a 1 point favorite now. But the over-under on this game is 54. And that's an interesting score. I think that's probably pretty close. If not, maybe I'd probably take the over on that based on these two teams and what they can do offensively. But in Super Bowls, crazy things can happen, and it comes down to more of a slugfest, and scoring is at a premium. So anyway, that's what's going on, what you can expect in the Super Bowl. That Kansas City is the early odds-on favorite. Certainly a lot of positive momentum and excitement for that franchise and how close they've been the last few years and how they seem to be. They just now have broken through, got a head coach who's been there before, seems to be learning a few things, doing things a little bit differently this time. But on the other hand, you've got a franchise that definitely knows what it's like to go to the Super Bowl and has been there many different times, has had some success. They've had some misses. But beyond that, I think San Francisco is a little bit more balanced team, offensively and defensively. That could mean the difference for them. But anyway, I'm excited. I think this will be a lot of fun. The Pro Bowl will be this weekend, and then the Super Bowl will be the following weekend. Speaking of quote-unquote all-stars, there's some because Pro Bowl, I guess, is the all-star game for the NFL, though it really doesn't make a lot of sense to me that they still play that game. But anyway, just that's the way college or the NFL works. But Utah State had some players involved with some postseason opportunities. There was the East-West Shrine game that took place in St. Petersburg, Florida this past weekend. Dominic Eberle performed in that, and he did well. He was 2 of 2 on field goal attempts, 3 for 3 on extra points. So certainly adding to his resume and the things that he's able to do, creating more attention as a potential NFL player, somebody that could certainly help out a roster. Field goals were not necessarily deep or extraordinarily challenging, but still he was solid in what he did. It was a 28-yard field goal in the second quarter. Then he added a 26-yard field goal in the fourth, and he was a perfect 3 for 3 on extra points, and just as he has been in his entire career at Utah State. So Dominic Eberle doing very well in the East-West Shrine game over the weekend. And Tipa Naliai also participating in a bowl game of sorts. This was the NFLPA Collegiate All-Star Game. This game was played in Pasadena, California. In that one, he had 2 tackles, including a half of a sack, and his team won the game 30-20. So nice opportunity for both of those guys to play among and with some of the better players of the game in the country, and have some opportunities to get noticed and get coached and additional work with some NFL scouts and get some additional attention and additional film. So coming up this weekend, we've got a couple other games that are going on that will feature Utah State football players. Jordan Love will be participating in the Senior Bowl, and that game is probably a little more of the premier type players that'll be participating in that one. But he'll be participating in that. And then the Hula Bowl, Gerald Bright will be doing that one. And that is that's actually being played in Hawaii. And he'll be able to participate in that bowl game. As those will be coming up a little bit later on this weekend. And more opportunities for those Aggie players to get noticed and to do some get more work done with NFL scouts and NFL coaches. All right, coming up next here on the Full Court Press, we'll look at what happened in Region 11 over this past weekend. What are the current standings, and how are things going so far? Just a couple of games into region play for local high school for both the boys and the girls. I'll update you on that coming up next right here on the Full Court Press.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Eric Frandsen with you here on a Monday, breaking down some of the things that happened over this past weekend. We'll hear from Coach Craig Smith coming up next hour. He's meeting with the media right now. Ajay is up there getting audio of that, and we'll be sharing that with you in a little bit here on the Full Court Press next hour as he tries to explain what happened at Boise State. How in the world did that one get away from them? And then they've got Air Force coming into town, a team that dismantled Utah State at their place. USU looking for some redemption. Can they try to get some things back together, or will it be losing 5 of their last 6? Hopefully not that. But looking at some things that happened over the weekend, I just, again, want to repeat when this coming up weekend, Jordan Love in the Reese's Bowl, the Senior Bowl, that's actually going to be Saturday, and it'll be on NFL Network. You can see that at 12:30. And then Gerald Bright, he's going to be in the Hula Bowl. That'll actually be on Sunday, and that'll be on CBS Sports Network starting at 8:30 our time. If you wanted to tune in and watch those guys and how well they do in those bowl games, respectively, that's what's going on and how you can follow those. Updates on what's going on with Region 11 high school basketball. We had some interesting games this past weekend, and the latest RPI rankings are out. The standings are out for the Utah High School Activities Association. You can read all about it on CashValleyDaily.com, but Skyview remains the number one team in boys basketball, continue to do well. They playing very good basketball. They're 12-2 overall, 3-0 in region play. Now remember, region standings don't mean the same thing as they used to. Yes, you still win your region and you get to say that you won the region, but it has no bearing on what your postseason looks like. So as we update the standings, we look at what does the overall RPI ranking look like for each team. So Skyview is still number one. Ridgeline has been moving up. They're now number 6 in the standings. Bear River is number 8, even though Bear River has a better overall record. Ridgeline has won a few more games in region play, and they're 2-1, where Bear River is 1-2. Green Canyon is 13th in the state with a record of 8-7. Logan is 6-9. They're number 15 in the state right now. And then Mountain Crest, they're struggling. They've played a little more competitively on Friday. They just weren't able to get it done. They only have one win on the year, and they are dead last in the Region 11 standings and in the UHSAA RPI standings as well. When it comes to girls basketball, again, some really, really good teams getting good marks in the state for Region 11. Ridgeline is number 2 overall for girls basketball. They're 11-4 on the year, undefeated so far in region play. Green Canyon is number 5. They're at 11-3. And Logan is number 6. They're at 10-4. So those 3 teams in particular having great seasons and among the best in the state in girls 4A basketball. Bear River is just outside the top 10 at number 11. They're at 7-8 overall. Skyview is number 12 at 6-9. And then Mountain Crest is at 14 at 6-9, but 0-3 in region play. No girls basketball games tomorrow. Normally they do play on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but kind of a bye week for them of sorts. They don't get going again on Thursday. But interesting to see these matchups as we continue to get deeper into the regular season, and the home and home will start to play a factor here within the next week or two, with these teams making return trips to their other opponents. So that's the current standings. Ridgeline number 2 with the girls, Skyview number 1 with the boys. Great representation from Region 11 for both in both standings in the 4A ranks. Coming up next hour, more about Utah State and previewing the Utah Jazz. I'm Dan Patrick,
and this is Above the Noise. Well, if you're a fan of X's and O's and the finer points of football, the Niners and Chiefs Super Bowl is the matchup for you. They got here in different ways. The Niners by dominating on the ground, the Chiefs with their passing attack. But they both have smart offensive coaches. San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan, Kansas City with Andy Reid. And they have weapons. The Niners have found a star in running back Raheem Mostert. George Kittle, he's one of the best tight ends. And receivers like Emmanuel Sanders and Deebo Samuel take advantage of their chances. Meanwhile, the Chiefs feel like they can do anything with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, throwing to star players like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. The Super Bowl should be an interesting chess match. So far, no one's been able to figure out how to stop either team. There are great defensive players on both teams as well. Special team stars. Pretty much everything a football fan can want in a Super Bowl. That hopefully will live up to a considerable amount of hype. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise